back, baby.
Offense, you know what to do.
It's football time in Tennessee.
Yes, you know.
Get this Tennessee.
All right, everybody, welcome in. This is the latest episode of the 1796 Sports Podcast. Not going to be a happy episode once again. The Tennessee Volunteers got thoroughly dismantled by the Georgia Bulldogs yesterday at home. 38-10 was the final score. Not a whole lot of positives after the first drive of the game. Jalen Wright broke away for a massive touchdown, and then it was pretty much all downhill from there. So no guest tonight. We'll get right into it. NVF, what'd you think?
Well, I feel like the main focus of this podcast needs to be the play calling on both sides of the ball. Mainly offense, but defense too. I mean, we'll start with defense. My thing is Carson Beck was carving us up all day when we're playing zone. Okay, like literally every time we'd have him on third down, and Ryan, you were there. It was loud. Everyone was into it. Zone coverage, someone's wide open.
Yeah,
go ahead, Ryan. No, I want to hear what you were talking about.
Carson Beck was playing 7-on-7 from the second Georgia got on offense. I mean, he was allowed to do whatever he wanted to, and we just let him do it the entire game. Please continue.
Yeah, so, I mean, and we're going to get further into detail about this whole thing, but my other thing is on offense. And, Ryan, you could say the same exact thing on offense. We're 3rd and 3. We're throwing the ball on 3rd and 3. And then we're 3 and 9, and we're running the ball. What is the play calling? What is the logic? I don't understand. Is it Joey calling the plays? Is it Josh? We're getting, like, separate answers from people on who's calling it. We don't know. Like, it can't be, like, if this is Josh, like, what happened? Like, what? I get you don't trust your quarterback. If that's the case, he shouldn't be playing. We've said this multiple times, but, like, it's terrible. I kept saying, I'm like, here comes a run, and it would happen. And I'm a nobody, like, coach, fan, whatever you want to say, and I could read our plays from the stands. You can't tell me Kirby Smart can't do that, you know?
Yeah, the play calling on offense, and I've said this for a while now, whether it's Josh or Joey, whoever it is, it's coming down to you have a quarterback. And we're going to get into this because this is really what I want to talk about, how we've stuck with Joe Milton this entire year, and we scored 17 points in the last 2 games in 2 pivotal games that decide whether or not you have a good season or not. Now, if anybody wants to bounce off of that, please do it because I'm beyond pissed off about the whole quarterback.
Well, I mean, go ahead, Bryce.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know who I blame more for that because, I mean, it's kind of hard to blame Joe because it's his last year probably playing football, and he wants to play. He wants to be the starter. I mean, if somebody's going to give you the starting job, you're not going to turn it down. So I honestly blame Heupel more for getting in this situation. It's like John Reed said a few weeks ago. If you go 8-4 and Nico gets no valuable reps, that's a wasted season. Like, I'm not mad about 8-4. I would have been fine with 8-4 at the beginning of the season. But, you know, it's the way we got to 8-4 that is so frustrating. We didn't even look like we belonged on the same field as Georgia. It looks like we're playing an entirely different sport. I mean, that's the thing that's frustrating about it because in this far into Heupel's tenure, we shouldn't look that outclassed against the top of the conference. We just shouldn't. And I don't tend to think that Nico was playing from week 3. I don't think we win yesterday. I don't think the talent gap is just a quarterback problem. I think up and down the roster, I mean, Georgia has 4 and 5 stars rotating in. We have 3 stars, 2 stars, and walk-ons rotating in. I mean, the talent gap is a real thing. It's not just the quarterback, but it's hard to not look at this season and think it's a total waste and Joe Milton held us back. I mean, it's hard to not think that.
Yeah, I just said it. It makes no sense if you're not gonna trust your quarterback. He shouldn't be playing. I understand. Joe's a great guy. He really is. Awesome, loyal guy. Stayed. I mean, this system is supposed to be a benefit to a quarterback, and I don't know. I feel like, and it makes me feel like the whole an issue, or like with him leaving. But because I don't know, everyone said, "Oh, well, Josh runs the offense." Well, Golish leaves, and our offense is dog water this year. So I don't know. I kind of want to hear your thoughts about that whole situation too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe that Golish had no input on the offense when he leaves, and the offense looks totally fucking different. Now, granted, everybody knows the roster is not as good, and anybody who thinks it is massive amounts of copium. But this roster, I mean, other than Jalen Wright and a couple of the linemen, Squirrel maybe, nobody else that starts on our offense would start on last year's team. I mean, it's not a good roster. It's not good enough to compete at the top of the SEC, but obviously Golesh did matter somewhat. I mean, I do think at first I didn't buy into that. I was like, no, people are looking into that way too much. But the offense is atrocious the year that he leaves.
I think you're being nice about it. The offense, I mean, we've scored almost no points the past 2 games. Like, I consider it no points. We've gotten blown out in 2 games in a row.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody wants to talk about Tim Banks, which Tim Banks is not a good defensive coach. But the problem is it's kind of hard to fully hold him accountable, though, because they're on the field all damn game. Like, the defense doesn't really have a chance because the offense can't get anything going. There's no consistency from the offense. The defense is tired as hell by the second quarter.
Yeah, I agree, and it's hard for and it comes to, I'm not trying to even blame the players. Like, to me, it's the play calling, because Joe Milton has the talent. He really does. I'm not saying he's a Hendon Hooker, but I mean, he's got the tangibles. He could do it. He could throw the ball far. I mean, tight spiral, all that shindig stuff. But the play calling has been atrocious. It's been such a letdown. I feel like we could have, like, even in the Florida game, like, the play calling was horrendous. And
the play calling and personnel things are very weird. Like Sampson getting no carries, like basically putting the Kentucky game away single-handedly, and then getting like 4 carries total since then.
Yeah, I would not be shocked if Sampson leaves.
Yeah, I think he's gone. I mean, what's the rationale? I mean, if you're Dylan Sampson, if I was Dylan Sampson leaves, I leave. Like, you're sitting behind 2 people and your offense is horrible, and you're clearly the best guy to get to the end zone on any given play. I mean, I understand Wright took one to the house on the first play, but that hasn't been a norm all year. Like, and we gave Jabari Small like 3 series in a row in the first half, and Jalen Wright ended up having 9 touches the whole game. Like, I don't understand.
Again, Jabari Small is not very good. Like, can we stop pretending that he is? I've never understood why he even plays. Dylan Sampson is much more explosive. Jalen Wright is better all around. There's no reason Jabari Small should be in the rotation. And, I mean, that's a very small thing to nitpick, but it just goes off of what NBF was saying. Like, the play calling and personnel decisions are just weird. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get there's no creativity in the offense. And
Nope.
I do say, I did say that the personnel is worse, which it obviously is. I don't think that's even debatable. Like, this roster is not as good as last year's. But the creativity from last year is gone too. The players sucking doesn't make the creativity go away. Like, everybody's been begging for D. Williams on offense, some creative stuff. I mean, you got even little stuff like Castles and Warren should have been more involved this year. It's just weird. Like, it's just the most cookie cutter vanilla offense. It doesn't. I guess what I'm trying to say is it cannot be fully accounted for just by having worse players. It's a completely different playbook.
Yeah, and what about the tempo? The tempo hasn't been anything this year either. Like, the tempo has been extremely slow compared to what we're used to.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another thing that makes no sense. It's like anything that worked last year, Heupel just said, no, we can't do that again.
Yeah, and going to the whole personnel thing, and I'm a military guy. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a military guy. It feels like seniority means more than winning.
Yeah, which is fucking stupid because this is the same thing. I know, NVF, I know you don't care about the Titans, but this is the same thing that goes on with the Titans. It's like if you're one of Vrabel's players, you're playing whether or not you suck. It's the same thing with Heupel. Like, whether or not he likes you is determining whether or not you play, not what's best for the team.
Yeah, and like I said, Joe's a great guy. He's good buddies with Josh Heupel. I get it. And I'm not saying Nico is the fix, because he probably isn't. Because like you said, personnel's a little bit different. Jalen Hyatt's gone. Hendon Hooker's gone. You got no Darnell Wright. Like, you got a bunch of pieces missing. And we understood. Everyone understood 8-4, 9-3 was our predictions. And like our realistic predictions. And, we're here now and everyone's disappointed. And I mean, I'm really not disappointed. I mean, you could end the season strong. Go into Vanderbilt you're at home, senior day, and go beat Vandy and go into a bowl game strong. But, man, there's so many things to fix this offseason. There really is.
And that's my main point for all Tennessee fans is this. We are not a Nico starting away from competing with Georgia.
No.
Like, I feel like a lot of Tennessee fans think putting Nico in will solve all of our problems immediately. I'm not sure. I mean, I think Nico would probably give us one more win this year. I mean, and I think Nico's really good, but this team sucks. I mean, this roster is not good. We overrated the hell out of it.
The seniors are done. They've been mentally checked out for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know. Ryan, I want to know your thoughts on this. I don't know how you look at this roster and look at what we've done against Florida, Georgia, Missouri, and Alabama. How do you look at this roster and say, oh, yeah, they just need a quarterback, that's it?
Yeah, it's certainly not the only problem. The bouncing off the whole Alex Golesh talk, I mean, Josh Heupel has ran good offenses without Alex Golesh. I mean, he wasn't with him until 2019. I don't buy that that's the only issue. And I'm not convinced that the guy who touches one of the two people that touches the ball on every play is not one of the issues. And not trying Nico is a ridiculous thing to go through 11 games without at least trying. And I do not buy what Josh Heupel said last night, that it was only because they wanted to redshirt him. Do you expect me to believe that if Joe Milton went down with an injury, Gaston Moore was going to be our damn quarterback?
Right. And you're telling me Nico's going to be here for 5 years?
Yeah, I mean,
it's horseshit.
The real answer is he didn't want to screw Joe. Like, he wants Joe to ride off into the sunset. I mean, it's
the same thing with Sampson. Sampson is a better running back than Jabari Small. No offense to Jabari. I love him. Good running back. But Dylan Sampson is better. Like you said, Bryce. He's better. And he won the game at the end of the game, the Kentucky game. He won the game for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't give him more playing time. You actually give him less playing time. So what's the deal? Like, even Georgia fans on Twitter are going, why isn't Sampson your running back?
Yeah, so NVF, you had to miss the podcast with Sidelines UGA, but he was even saying that. He was like, dude, Sampson would start on like 12 SEC teams.
You put Sampson on Georgia, he'd be a round 1 draft pick.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he knows that, and he will probably go somewhere because of that.
I really want to pick Josh Heupel's mind on why he stuck with Joe the whole year. I mean,
He won't tell you the real reason.
yeah, I know he won't, but I'm just going to throw out some ideas here, okay? Did Josh Heupel promise Joe Milton that he would start the whole year if he stayed? Did Josh Heupel put himself in Joe Milton's shoes because he's a former quarterback and think I wouldn't want to be benched in my last year of football?
That's what I think it is.
Did Josh Heupel, does he not want to admit that he was wrong for the second time about Joe Milton at Tennessee? And any one of those 3 reasons is not a good enough excuse to roll with him the entire year.
Well, and we talked about it in the basketball thing about Rick Barnes and recruiting and stuff, right? You had, and I'm not saying he would have done amazing at Tennessee, but I feel like it would have made our team a lot better. You had Sam Hartman in the portal last year.
Yeah.
Why was Tennessee not going after him? Why?
I'm gonna go so far as to say I think Graham Mertz might have been an improvement.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I think Graham Mertz proved to be better than Joe Milton this year. Like, yeah. I will go as far as saying that. I mean,
and here's the thing, Normal, and I know you're not like this, but a lot of fans will hear what me and Ryan are saying, and they'll take it as like, well, you hate Joe, or like you think Joe sucks. It has nothing to do with that. Like, you are a huge Milton fan, and even you're admitting we would have been better off with Mertz or Hartman. It's like nobody has anything personal against Joe Milton. It's just it is undeniable at this point that he did not do what every single person thought he was going to do and what everybody expected him to do. He failed to live up to expectations this season. There's no other way around it.
Yeah, Josh Heupel doesn't get paid $9 million to play the guy who's the nicest or the most charismatic.
There you go. Nail on the head.
He gets paid to play the guy that gives you the best chance to win. And as far as I'm concerned, you cannot convince me that we would have been worse than 8-4 with Nico the entire year.
No, I think Bryce is right. I see an extra win.
Yeah,
I feel like 9-3. I feel like the Florida game probably would have been closer.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, we weren't even competitive in the second half of Bama against Florida, who's horrible, against Missouri, against Georgia. We weren't even on the same level. That's not just as simple as, oh, well, if Nico was playing, we'd be right neck and neck. I don't think that's the case. I think Nico and better coaching and Nico wins you Florida. I don't think Nico wins you the other 3 games, though.
Yeah, the thing is, it goes back to the idea, like, it's not worth playing a 6th-year senior who's not going to be here next year if you're going to go 8-4. That's my whole thing. I don't care if you win those games or not. It's just about getting him valuable reps going into a year where, like, 9-3 or 10-2 will probably get you to a playoff next year. And now we're going to have to be training him and having him knock the rust off next year instead of what we could have been doing this year.
He's going to be taking lumps during our first 4 games next year instead of, the last 4 this year.
And our schedule ain't easy.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, now, well, and that's another thing. Like, this isn't just a Joe thing. This is a Heupel thing. Like, even the games that we penciled in before the season as wins, which I'm assuming everybody penciled in Missouri and Florida, well, you can't even win those. So, I mean, it's already established we're not on the level of Bama and Georgia. But we can't even consistently beat Florida and Missouri.
Right. I mean, I don't know, man. It's hard to talk about it because we don't get to know what Josh Heupel's actually thinking. We don't know what's going on in the whole coaching room and why they're calling these plays and why they're doing this and why they're doing that. So it's kind of hard to talk about because everything I feel like he's talking about in these interviews is like, oh, I wouldn't say a lie, but he's not telling us what's really going on.
The coach speak bullshit. It's the
same
Mike Vrabel does. It's the same shit. And I'll go so far as to say this: if Nico, God forbid, enters the transfer portal, that's coaching malpractice. I think if Joe's graduating, he can't rely on Joe next year. If Joe leaves and Nico transfers anyway because he's pissed about this year, which I have no inside information about that. I don't know that that's true. But I'm just saying, if Nico leaves and is playing somewhere else next year, it's a borderline fireable offense.
That's 100% accurate in my eyes. You can't leave the number one player on the bench the entire year and then have him transfer and not have people wanting your head on a spike.
If Nico transfers because Heupel was afraid to hurt Joe's feelings,
yeah,
it could be possibly the worst coaching move of all time. And let's say if he did go somewhere else and he balls out, oh my God.
Yeah, or like God forbid he goes to like Kentucky. Can you imagine that?
Oh my God.
Like, I'm just saying, like you said, Ryan, he's making $9 million a year and he's scared to hurt a player's feelings. He doesn't want a player to be mad at him.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully, I would like to think. I don't think Heupel's an idiot. I think Heupel's a pretty smart guy, especially football-wise. Surely to God, there's some kind of assurance with Nico that he's staying at least next year no matter what.
Well, I feel like him transferring is not a worry because he's the starter. Like, he is guaranteed to be the starter next year, and I just don't see him leaving. But I mean, surely Heupel's not that stupid. Like, surely he would know if Nico was pissed.
Yeah, if it's like you said, if that happens, that is just an absolute doomsday scenario that should have him on the hot seat immediately.
Oh man, I mean, and Ryan, I know you were at the game too. Can we just talk about the crowd environment?
It was terrific. I mean, we set a decibel record
on the first play.
Yeah, it was the loudest moment at any college football game ever, and the team wasn't able to ride that to anything, which is disappointing. But
we literally had one play all game.
Yeah, but the fans showed up for the most important, like the one play that we were able to cheer for, and Dolly Parton. So
that was kind of a shit show too.
Yeah, because her in-ear mic broke.
Not only that, is I think she thought that she was going to be singing her version of Rocky Top and not the band's version. Yeah. And because she was singing, and then she was just like, "Oh wait," and she just started talking. I'm just like, but dude, it was 10-7. Georgia's winning 10-7. My whole section, other than obviously a handful of us, were up yelling, trying to get everyone up, and I'm not even joking. Like 4 or 5 rows in front of me, they were all sitting down, not yelling, not even clapping, nothing. And I'm like, are you guys really that checked out? Like,
honestly, I think it was the BVS kicking in. Like, I mean, whatever people will say on Twitter, I think most of us expected exactly what happened to happen. And I think, giving Tennessee fans the benefit of the doubt, I think they were just didn't want to get too excited because inevitably we knew what was going to happen.
I mean, yeah, no one expected us to win that game, but after that first play, I'm not gonna lie, I really thought, I was like, holy, and then you score, and then your defense holds them to a field goal, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, we can do something, at least make this a game.
Yeah. But
did you guys see after the game? Kirby said something about, oh yeah, we wanted to go ahead and let them score early just to get it out of the way. Did y'all see this?
Wait, did he actually say that?
Yeah, he said something like, we wanted to let them go ahead and get their points and get that out of the way. And the reporter laughed, and then Kirby was dead serious about it. And that's I'm not mad at him. I mean, he's a great coach. I just think that's pretty freaking embarrassing because.
But it's brilliant.
I mean, he was toying, but it just goes to show you what I was saying earlier. We're just not even on the same stratosphere as Georgia, and problem. I mean, it's definitely a problem. I mean, like Ryan, say Nico had been starting since like week 4. What do you think the score is yesterday?
I mean, it's probably not much different, but you're at least getting him reps.
Yeah.
I would want to know I want to know why we have walk-ons starting on the offensive line in year 3. I want to know why we have walk-ons starting in the secondary in year 3.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know why we didn't do anything out of the ordinary to even convince me that we're trying to win the game. I mean,
what was that? Can we talk about that, Ryan? I'm sorry. I have to mention this.
I think I know where you're going, so go ahead.
What the fuck was up with that field goal?
Yeah. That is the most loser thing I've ever seen, and we didn't let the week prior too. Like, why?
Even Gary Danielson, who noted ball hater, even Gary Danielson on the broadcast, like I was the only one of the 3 of us watching it, and he even said on the broadcast, he was like, "What are you doing? Like, what kind of message does this send to your team?" Like he literally said that. He was like, "You're telling your team that you don't care about winning. You're just trying to make it a little bit more respectable." And
he missed.
For the first time, I actually agreed with Gary Danielson. Like, what does that say to your team and to the fans that are there that spent hundreds of dollars to come to that game? Oh, yeah, we're going to try to just get 3 points and make it look a little bit more respectable. Like, what do you have to lose? You've already lost to Florida, Alabama, and Missouri. You're not going anywhere. Why would you kick that field goal? Like, what is the point of that?
It was shocking. I mean, take out any kind of talk about that's a ridiculous decision and how it affects your team's psyche and all that. You have a better chance of gaining 8 yards than Campbell hitting a 55-yarder in the first place. Like, what if you're gonna kick a field? Like, if you're too scared to go for it, you might as well punt it because that's not gonna happen. That's stupid.
Ridiculous. Yeah, and to put that on him too, like.
Yeah, exactly. Putting that kid in that position is retarded. Like, I'm sorry to use the R word, but it's stupid. Like, why would you do that? It was just such a loser play call. It made Heupel look like a total loser.
And again, and it gets to the point where we're getting to this off-season talk. It's like, and no one knows. I mean, we got to wait to see what Cooper comes back as with grades from the NFL, because if he's projected as a 1 through 3rd round pick, he's gone. But if he's past that, I feel like he comes back. But like, we need a complete overhaul on the offensive line. I'd probably dip into some receivers, and you need a lot of defensive. Yeah. Like, and you need to be like telling them, but even with Martinez, is why would people come to a team that's just been trash in the secondary?
Well, Martinez shouldn't be there, first of all.
I think, honestly, bro, I'm getting worried that I think he is. I feel like
I agree. I agree with you 100% because we've already shown that Heupel is scared to make tough decisions that might, upset his friends. He might not.
I feel like he's too nice. He's being too nice. Same thing with the Joe thing.
He's scared he's not going to get invited to Willie's, 4th of July barbecue or something. It is just embarrassing. Like, I don't know that Heupel will make the tough decision that he needs to win in the SEC.
Well, he hasn't fired anybody since he's been here. I mean, there hasn't really been a reason to yet, but he hasn't done it yet. And
I feel like you have the reason right now.
Yeah, sure you do. You absolutely have a reason now. At least Willie. I can understand, thinking that the way Josh Heupel wants to win games, you're probably not gonna get a really, really good defensive coordinator better than Banks to come here, just because the defense is probably going to be on the field for 35, 40 minutes a game. Like, who wants to sign up for that? I can understand. I can understand keeping Banks, but I would still fire him. But Willie Martinez should go, bottom line. No,
I mean, it is the end of his contract. I'm telling you, I feel like there would be a riot if we hop on Twitter one day and they say, "Oh, well, Willie Martinez is re-signed." I will blow a gasket.
I mean, I think hopefully there was a reason that he was one of the few position coaches to not get another contract after last year. I mean, gosh. I mean,
Talk about it, Ryan. I know. Come on.
what does it say about Willie Martinez that the guys that you're deciding to play who are seniors still suck? They've had 4 or 5 years to get good, and they're not. What does that say about the coaching?
Look, I mean, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. Slaughter would not start for any other SEC team except maybe Vanderbilt. I mean, our secondary is absolutely atrocious. Nobody that played yesterday should be starting in the SEC.
Yeah, like why isn't Ricky Gibson playing?
I mean, it goes back to why is Heupel?
Because they're seniors, Jim. They're seniors, and he doesn't.
Right. I get, and it's getting to that point where I feel like someone's got to tell him if he doesn't he's obviously not figuring it out himself, but someone's got to tell him, like, you got to do something, bro. Like, this is ridiculous.
It goes back to him fetishizing loyalty over who gives you the best chance to win, and it's not just in the quarterback position; it's all over the field.
Dylan Sampson is my main one. Like, yeah. Dylan Sampson is definitely my favorite player on the Vols right now, and dude's a standout guy. Why do you think he did the cheetah thing? I know he had to play it off with the cheetah in the cage thing, but that's exactly what he is. You're keeping a very viable weapon off the field. And no offense to Jalen Wright, because Jalen Wright's a dog too. I mean, but Dylan Sampson should be right behind him.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it like we do have one of the best rushing offenses in the country, no matter how they've decided to rotate the running backs. And we're still struggling at the quarterback position and refuse to make a move. I mean, if you gave Sam Hartman that, if you gave if you gave Nico that, if you even gave Gaston that, the best rushing attack in the SEC throughout the season, you can't tell me that our offense wouldn't be better.
Well, it goes back to, I think it was Austin. Somebody said this yesterday, and it really rung home. It's like Joe has had 6 years to learn how to not throw it 100 miles an hour when the guy's 5 yards in front of you. Like, and it goes back to, like, what do our coaches even do? Like, here's a question for you guys. Who on offense has gotten a lot better in the last 2 years?
No one. I feel like they got worse.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like Ramel Keaton. Like, what?
Yeah,
I take that back. Squirrel White I like Squirrel White. I think he played pretty well for what I feel like he played to expectation.
Given the circumstances, yeah. I mean, Squirrel White was fine, but like Ramel Keaton never developed in anything. Dante Thornton, I mean, I know he got hurt, and he was playing better, but I mean, how can you look at him as not a disappointment? I mean, Castles didn't contribute much this year in the receiving end. I mean, Jacob Warren is an average tight end. Like, who really has gotten better and taken strides? And don't even get started on the defense, because on the defense, who fucking knows? I mean, nobody in the secondary has gotten better.
That's for damn sure.
I will say that Jalen Wright has turned into a really good player from Heupel's first year. That's the only one that I could think of off the top of my head besides Squirrel.
Yeah, well, I feel like Jalen Wright we always knew he had that, though.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I don't know how much that has to do with coaching, because he transformed his body and isn't, 170 pounds anymore. I mean,
and he literally, the only time he's ever fumbled the ball was last week.
Yeah. I mean, it's really concerning because, if you really wanted to be pessimistic, which I don't want to be, but last year, a lot of your success came off of players that Pruitt recruited and got to Tennessee. And, I mean, besides Squirrel, who that Josh Heupel has recruited has really contributed to the team's success.
Yeah, and we have a lot to look for. And that's another thing to talk about. Like, you go into this game, biggest recruiting weekend ever.
Yeah.
And you do that. That's how you show up. And
I mean, that's kind of like that's been my whole point the last couple weeks is like, I can handle losing. If I don't think it would hurt you one iota in recruiting if you lost 45-42, but
No.
when you get completely dismantled and everybody sees that Georgia's just head and shoulders better than you in everything, why would they choose you? Like that's I mean, unless they know they want to start or they love the atmosphere. But like when you get absolutely dismantled by somebody in your conference, that is just embarrassing. I mean, and that's going to hurt. Like somebody will decommit.
Oh, well, I mean, it is flip season, and I understand that. I feel like a lot of our guys aren't going to flip. I think a lot of the guys see that they are going to play, and like Boo Carter's going to play. That kid is good. He's better than pretty much all the guys on our team now in the secondary. And, I mean, you got a lot of guys that could come in and play right away. Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley, they could come in and play right away. Max Anderson, Gage Ginther, you guys they have all the talent in the world coming, and they know they have a chance to play real early.
Yeah. I mean, if I was Jordan Seaton watching that game yesterday, I would be like, oh, I can start here day one.
Exactly. He would. How could you not put him at a tackle spot?
I mean, who else do you got? I mean, there's going to be a litany of players that we don't even know their names yet. They're going to come and help through the transfer portal. But, and this is something else I want to talk about. The talk about you not wanting to play Nico, I mean, I saw this all last week when anybody brought up Joe Milton. We don't want to play Nico because he would get killed. We gave up 1 sack yesterday. I mean, that's a stupid reason to not play him.
Randy's not a statue. Like, he moves.
Yeah, I mean, he has better pocket presence than Joe in the short time we've seen him against. I mean, given it's against inferior competition, but he looks like he can move better in the pocket. But, I'm going to ask y'all a question real quick. Give me a football reason why you would start Joe Milton next week against Vanderbilt.
Other than senior night, nothing. There's no reason.
Yeah, there's no football reason. The only thing is you don't want to ruin the kid's senior night. That's the only reason.
And he will honestly probably play the whole game.
Yeah, I mean if
unless we blow them out.
Yeah, if I was Heupel and I wanted to finish my streak of being too damn nice, I would give him the first series and then play Nico the rest of the Vanderbilt game and then the ball game. Because if your excuse is if the thing you're riding on in the press conference was what Josh Heupel said is the plan was always to redshirt him, you can play him now.
Well, you could play him this weekend and the bowl game because it don't count. Exactly. And he'd still be redshirt eligible.
Well, Jim, the thing is, though, is like there's literally no reason to play Joe because it's not like I can understand, like obviously putting Joe in the Orange Bowl last year. Like, I mean, obviously, who else are you going to play? Like, you want to go into next season with momentum, and you want to give the guy like some momentum going into the season. But Joe Milton's not coming back, so it doesn't matter whatever like bullshit excuse Heupel would use about like we wanted to end the season on a strong note or whatever he'll
that's strong note is making it known that you're going to go try and win.
Yeah,
that's what you need.
Exactly, but that's what he'll say though. Like when he inevitably starts Joe, is he'll be like, well, it's the kid's last game. And then he'll say something about we wanted to end it on a strong note, but it's
oh god,
that's what
you're hitting. Oh yeah, no, you're hitting it on the head. Like that. That is what he's going to say.
Listen, he's already opened himself up to the excuse the whole year being that they wanted to redshirt him, and that excuse no longer exists now because he's only played in 3 games and you have 1 regular season game left and the bowl game. It does not matter now. So if you still want to use that excuse, you have to play him, or the obvious, reason that he hasn't played in all years because he didn't think that he was the best choice to win, which is another problem if that's true because he's been here for damn near a year now.
Well, we already know though that Heupel has not typically made the best decisions with quarterbacks. I mean, he started Joe over Hendon.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. He didn't want to be wrong for the second time about Joe or admit that he was wrong. I mean, he's definitely wrong. He didn't want to admit it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I want to I don't know if this is an actual true thing, But I thought someone told me that Sam Hartman was an actual like thing until the Orange Bowl. And then Joe did well. He didn't play the perfect game, but he played well against a good team. And
So I don't
Heupel
know. I can
canceled
say
it.
this. I can say this. I don't know, for sure how close it got, but I do know that my contact at the Vol Club told me that everybody in the Vol Club thought it was going to happen.
Okay, so I think it's because I have the same kind of source, and I'm starting to really believe it, and I think that might have been a really bad decision.
Well, he probably would have gotten. I mean, Bryce, who's the quarterback that played at Oklahoma State last year and went to Ole Miss?
Spencer Sanders.
He probably would have gotten Spencer Sanders if he would have came.
Dude, there's no way. Spencer Sanders sucks. Sam Hartman, best case scenario, could have enhanced his draft stock.
I think if Sam Hartman was here and you could trust your quarterback with the throws, I feel like he could have been like a Heisman contender.
But I think what Ryan's saying, though, is like he still thinks Heupel would have started Milton.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, but if Sam Hartman comes to Tennessee, does Joe not leave?
I don't know.
Because Sam Hartman's a big name.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, though.
Sam Hartman would be coming here to play. He would not be coming here if he knew he was going to be sitting.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
And I think that's the reason he didn't come, because he didn't trust Heupel to play him over Joe.
I don't know if that's the case though. I think it was the whole Orange Bowl thing to where Heupel told him like, "Hey, it's going to be a competition," and Hartman was like, "Well, I could go play at Notre Dame."
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think Heupel got cocky after the Orange Bowl and said, well, we don't need to add anybody. We got our guy.
I wouldn't even say that. I think he was honest to him and was like, "Hey, Joe played really well. He's gonna stay. I'm not saying don't come, but it's gonna be a competition to see who gets a starting spot." And you got Notre Dame over there saying, "Hey, you come here, you're playing. Like you are the quarterback one." And who wouldn't go there? I mean, Notre Dame's a good program. They could have had a good season. They about fell to what we went to, and I feel like Sam Hartman would have made this team really good, really, really good.
I have no doubt in my mind if he came here, we would have beaten Florida and Missouri.
Oh yeah.
I said it after the Texas A&M game. How it feels good to be bitching about a team that's 5-1. Do not let anybody tell you, whoever's listening to this, that you're being spoiled for crying about 8-4. 8-4 is unacceptable at Tennessee when this season has unfolded how it has. Please don't let anybody tell you.
My father-in-law is a big Arkansas fan, and if you compared to Mississippi State or Arkansas or Vanderbilt, yeah, we look like bitches crying about 8-4. But the difference is 8-4, just a bowl plus one or plus two is not good enough.
No,
at least it shouldn't be. I mean, when you have a team that has the resources Tennessee has, with the backing that we have, the NIL that we have, Georgia and Bama should be the only teams in the SEC that are above us. It should be. But instead, you have it how it is now, where LSU's better. LSU's above us right now, unquestionably. And I think overall as a program, we're above Florida, but can you really say that when we can't beat them consistently?
No.
Right. No, Florida owns us at home. I get it. Yeah, we beat them in Neyland, whatever. But, Florida owns us when we go to Florida.
Yeah, and that's just not, what's getting better? That's the thing. Like with Heupel, it's kind of like what happened at UCF. And I don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying we should move on from Heupel. I'm just saying, what's better now than it was a year ago?
I mean, here's the thing though. You got to think, and I'm on Heupel's side still. I think Heupel's the coach. I don't think no one with a realistic brain should be thinking get rid of Heupel. Heupel's on year 3. He's got the recruits flowing in. Okay, you got to give him a couple years, but I mean, dude, I feel like the recruiting's gotten better. You gotten that little bowl band myth whole thing gone, and now you're getting these guys. Mike Matt, like I said their names already. And
yeah, I mean the recruiting is better, and the recruiting It's still probably arguably not where it should be. I mean, I think Tennessee should comfortably be top 8, ideally.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
there's-
by the end of it, I mean you're talking if let's say we do pull Seton, I mean that's moving us up a big amount, and that's not only him. I mean you got a couple guys like Mikkel and all these guys that could possibly come to Tennessee, and we got to look at it as out of a little positivity of last night is you said it before. I mean. These guys could literally say, like, hey, I could play. I like the coaches because it's all about relationships and recruiting. I mean, like, if a guy comes in, like Seton comes in, and Ellerby's he even said it. You guys seen the thing on 3? I mean, Ellerby's telling him, like, you come here, you're going to be an NFL guy, like, hands down. And it's all about relationships with recruiting. It's not always about records and all that stuff. Yes, some guys will leave. And that's fine, but I mean, you gotta be able to pull the guys, man. And I feel like Seton is a big target now, to where you need to get him.
Yeah, you really need to close out him. I mean, as you said, LSU's ahead of us. I'd say we're probably on the same level now. I mean, we set 2 spots ahead of them in the rankings and recruiting, and they're losing Jane Daniels next year. So I would say we're on the same level. I mean, it's just about closing out. I mean, you sit at, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, and A&M are ahead of you in the SEC come next year. I think A&M is probably going to fall apart. I think Florida might lose a lot of players that they have committed right now.
They just lost one.
Exactly. I mean, come these next few weeks, right before the early signing date, which is now turned into the real signing date, they're probably going to lose a lot of players from Florida and A&M. So I think we'll end up top 10 in recruiting probably, especially if you're able to land Seton. So, and that's highly important based on what we saw last night, because Georgia was mastering space flight while we were banging around in the rocks like cavemen. So you need to finish strong in recruiting to have good momentum going into
well, and I think you need to get something big in the portal as well. I mean, we need multiple starters. Like you can't come out of the off season without multiple starters in the portal.
Yeah, and you got to have, and there's guys knowing like, okay, I can go to Tennessee and play, especially like big targets. And I'm not talking like guys that are NFL quality, like right off the rip, but there's going to be guys that want to come play here.
Well, it's like Campbell from Miami, like
yeah, and he's been awesome.
It's just hard to find starting offensive linemen in the portal. I mean, it's kind of like what Colorado's going through. Dion tried to build a team through the portal, and it doesn't work. I mean, if you're transferring, there's a reason. So
right,
it's hard to,
No, I mean, you got a lot of JUCO talent too, though.
Yeah, I mean. But I'm just saying, you got to, like what y'all both said, you got to close out strong on the recruiting, because you can't build a team just through the portal. There's chemistry issues, things like that.
Yeah, the transfer portal is there to shore up spots that you missed in recruiting. I mean, because nobody's going to transfer to a team where they don't know they're going to start. So, I mean, and that's what we did last year. We got eight players that have played a ton of time this year, save for Peely, who got hurt in the first game. So, if you finish strong in recruiting, which we have 2 4-star tackles committed and 1 3-star tackle on the offensive line coming in. We got 2 5-stars and Jordan Ross and Mike Matthews. You would have 3 if you got Seton, which would make that a terrific class that will finish top 10. I mean,
3 of those guys are going to start.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want people to misunderstand how we're treating this episode. Like, we are not saying that all hope is lost. We are saying that some questions have arisen about Heupel, mainly off of the play calling issues and the personnel decisions. But that doesn't mean that we're out on Heupel and cutting ourselves over 8-4. I mean, 8-4 is unacceptable, but at the end of the day, it's still one of the better seasons Tennessee has had in the last 15 years. So it's a sign of a good program that you're pissed off about it.
Yeah, and I feel like we'll be able to tell a lot this weekend. This weekend's going to tell us a lot.
Yeah, it's going to tell us if the players are checked out, if Heupel's lost the locker room, which, dear God, I mean, please don't. I mean, you can handle talent gaps. You can't handle when the players aren't bought in.
And that's what's weird about it is like I feel like once the team lost the Florida game, because a lot of everybody thought we were going to win, and I mean other than Florida fans, and I feel like that was the start of something bad.
Yeah,
because I feel like you think about it, Tennessee wins Florida, and then we win the next 3. You're 6-0. And you could have beat Bama this year, but you just couldn't come out of the second half, and that's another killer. You had that game, and that's a killer. Like, how do you recover from a game like that?
Yeah, Florida has always been the swing game in the 21st century.
Well, it's just, I mean, in my opinion, call it what you want. I think it's a sign of a mentally weak team.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean the players said it though. They said it.
I mean, if you can't get back up after you get your teeth punched out, I mean that's a sign that's a cultural problem, in my opinion.
And hey, I don't know about you, Ryan. Though I do want to give a shout out. I know you'll probably never hear this, but Caleb Herring, the brother of Elijah Herring, he is probably the most motivated guy on that bench. That dude is like lifting the crowd, not even watching the game. He is like trying to get the crowd pumped up all game long, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was any secret that the only reason, the big reason we got Elijah Herring was to get him to campus. So I expect big things out of him. I mean, I noticed it too, because I was like, who's this guy that's pumping up the crowd when we're still down 17 points? Oh, it's Caleb Herring. Like,
yeah, all game.
He has the right attitude,
and we need guys like that.
And
I think
he needs to be a captain next year.
And that's the thing is like this is what we're talking about is like Boo Carter. He's got that dog in him. He is good. Like Boo is not telling these kids like, hey, come here just to come here. Boo wants to win. He's not coming here just because I'm from Tennessee. He's coming here to win.
Yeah.
and that's why he's such a good peer recruiter.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think like most of these kids are not used to losing. I mean, if you're a top recruit, your high school team is probably damn good.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, think about it. Boo has a lot of places he could have went. I mean, Michigan. Could have went to Michigan. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm one of the Michigan haters because I just don't. The Big Ten is kind of. I feel like Tennessee would be a Michigan status if we were in the Big Ten. But he could have went there. He could have went to Colorado. A lot of places wanted Boo, and he chose Tennessee for a reason. And that's what I'm saying with relationships. Is it's big on what coaches you get rid of because you better be ready for some people to leave. If you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Did y'all want to hit on anything else in this episode?
I'm good, man. I got a lot off my chest that I wanted to talk about. And we got the Maui Invitational tomorrow, so.
God, it's going to be I'm so excited.
Hey, just so I could say this on air, Georgetown won.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Yeah, now I just need one more team to hit.
There you go.
Nice.
All right. Well, y'all know what to do. Let's go Vols, baby.
Let's go Vols. Let's go win this Invitational, baby.
Hell yeah.